This video is about using zinc as anti-rust paint on chassis, on body, so using some filler, basic rust repair video. This is how one looks once I finish respraying it, repaint it, and I'm going to be talking through the whole process. At the moment you're watching third video in a series of videos about the whole process, how the whole one been done, and you watch me spraying material called Zinga. It's not really a paint, it's called the galvanizing complex, and the reason why I'm saying it's not really a paint, it certainly feels and appears to be totally different, and the company who manufactures it states it's called galvanizing complex rather than a paint. They guarantee that about 96% of all solid mass within this product is actual zinc. And in addition to that, what they also say that this product don't actually have any shelf life, so you could have it on your shelf for like 20-30 years, and after such time you can still use it and it's going to be totally usable. They are the same guys who provide coating solutions for metal work, for structural metal work, for some of the areas in stadium for London Olympics. And what I read on their website, that if material is applied properly with the right technique and how it's supposed to be, then they will guarantee protection on the metal for up to 60 years. Naturally, I don't really hope to get 60 years out of the van. However, considering it's my working vehicle and it's basically what I use for doing the work, I hope it will give me some really good protection on the body, considering all the rust spots and damage that was there. Obviously, I have cleaned everything before with a shot blast, and I used the degreaser to degrease everything prior to spraying this zinc product, as you see me doing just now. I used Gravitex as the stone guard or anti-chip, whatever you like to call it, on the bottom quarter of the van and inside the wheel arches and so on. So if you're interested to see how that was done, you need to watch previous 2 videos about the whole process. I go there in detail on how everything done, because I also packed up the wheel arches from inside with some basically fibers and fiberglass filler, just to prevent the soil and dirt sitting inside the wheel arches, so that no moisture is there for the future. And basically, as you can see, the material I'm applying just now, like this zinc material, was also applied in there, and you can see some shot blasting in there as well, how the whole process actually happens. As you can see on this video, the material itself is drying out fairly fast. However, manufacturers suggest to kind of hold for 4 hours, let it dry for 4 hours before you apply anything else over the top of it. They also sell some sealing materials to put on it, but I just consider them to be quite expensive, because the whole thing I used on the van about 6.5 to 7 kilograms of this product, Zinga product, and it costed me over 200 pounds in money. So at the moment you see this zinc called the galvanizing complex, which is completely dried out. It's the next day, and I'm here ready to spray some sealer, epoxy sealant primer. The one I used was manufactured by a company called Body. If you're interested to see how all of these materials are actually mixed and how I was mixing them in what ratios, you can see it in the very first video of this series. So at the moment I'm just applying some primer, and this primer is supposed to seal this surface area, so it should be impenetrable. And also what that will allow me is, when I'm going to be sanding in the future, because the primers that I have are different colors, well, I'll be able to see when I'm actually sanding through different layers, and it will give me good indication how far I'm through and where I need to stop and so on. I am quoting these various products, but please don't consider them to be advertisement. I'm not in a position to advertise anything, as my level of experience almost non-existent. this is my actually very first automotive paint job that I ever attempted to do, so I'm definitely not in a position to advise anybody on anything, especially how to do it or what to use it. I'm just showing you an example of what I've been doing. Consider how big surface area is in this van. I wanted to have something that I can use to sand in this area, fairly large surface area, so I had to make up a little tool which I made out of mouse traps and some tool for plastering. Basically just stuck them together, and this way I could actually use little mouse traps for holding sandpaper in place, and I can use really wide tool rather than using something smaller what you can buy for auto bodies. And this is pretty much how tool looks. I had a little try on it. Also, during the process of repainting, I took off the front wings to discover this cavity, and it's absolutely mental because there is about 300 mil, maybe 250 mil of a cavity that holds so much dirt inside, and there is no hole to where water can drain through, so everything just gets packed up all the time, and water just sitting there, and most importantly dirt sitting there and holding the moisture in it. So no surprises that these things are rusting. But in the future I will just drill a hole in there, and I will also fill up the front wings with the fiberglass filler as I mentioned before, which, as I said, if you're interested, you can see it in the very first video. At the moment I'm just spraying some degreaser and wiping everything off. So pretty much before I paint, after sanding and painting new layer, you always use a degreaser and just degrease surface and clean it all with a clean wipes. And you can see that the top area is covered with a paint. I've done some filler on the right hand side near the end, and what I'm wiping just now, the black area, is all Gravitex. So the Sanax is a high build primer which I used. Its mix ratio is 4:1, so obviously the video is speed up to about 8 times to normal speed that what it was shot in originally, and this allowed me to actually show everything in the right well, more or less quick rather than dragging video quite extensively. So what actually happened there is this filler and the high build primer and also Zinga, the Zinc product, I sprayed with the same gun which I just bought on the auction for funny money, and it has 2mm hole and the needle in it. So and it sprayed everything really well. It worked for me anyway, as far as I can judge it. On this trestle you can also see Gravitex can, black color can, and one of the main reasons why you choose Gravitex over other products is because Gravitex marketed as repaintable anti-chip or stone guard, and you don't really need to prep it in any special way. You just need to let it dry properly, and it takes a while to let it dry. The hardest thing about the whole process is actually watching paint dry, quite literally. So and you can just degrease it as you saw me doing, and you can start spraying your primer right over top of it, and it covers nicely and holds really well as well. So at the moment you just watch me spraying that first layer of primer, and I'm just trying to cover the whole lot. Once this primer will be sprayed, my intention will be is to start putting filler in all of those low places which need to be filled up, and sanding down, trying to bring surface area down to reasonably flat kind of a surface. What I also realized that probably because I was using the grinder with that specialized disc for knocking the paint off, and also because I have such a large panels, probably because of the combination of those two factors, what actually caused is quite a lot of distortion in the panel, and quite localized distortion, so which appears like lots of indents which never been there before, or at least you can see them on the surfaces that hasn't been stripped of the paint. And I presume that the heat that generated from a grinder through that little disc is what actually created those distortions. So I was kind of surprised on it, but once you fill it all up with a filler, it's quite a lot of work, but you can get a reasonably good finish. I assume it shouldn't be so predominantly pronounced on much smaller surfaces like what you would get on a car or so on. Or perhaps you could research alternative ways of taking paint off. I use that grinder because if I would choose to take paint off with a shot blast, it would take me a lot longer, because the area that you affecting by shot blast is actually much more smaller. So now you can see what I meant by need for a bigger tool. With a smaller tool, like what you get sanding blocks, it's going to be a lot harder, but with a much larger tool you cover a lot bigger surface area, and you can achieve pretty good results as far as indication go, and keeping everything nice and flat. Obviously you need to replace your sandpaper quite regularly, because it stops cutting. It still kind of feels sharp and kind of live when you try it, but you can definitely see the difference between new sandpaper when you do a bit of sanding. I end up using another different tool altogether, and this is the area between where Gravitex, the bottom quarter, and the rest of the van. So the prior priming and prior paint that I was using for painting the bottom quarter now overlapping, and as you saw me doing, I just sanded it all out nice and easily. So as a tool that I mentioned, this tool used normally for sanding in between the plasterboard panels, and this is pretty much the normal speed how it goes. It's not really. It's very labor intensive. I really wish I could sand as quick as you can see at the video at the moment, and unfortunately it's very notorious and labor intensive process. So if you decide to do it, your own car or whatever project you have. By the way, guys, if you like what you see so far, just comment it in your in a comment, or in a comment you can also write down what kind of project you're doing, what kind of project you have in your mind. I would be really interested to know. As you can see, there is quite a lot of filler being put on. It's all been sanded, and also you can see that there is brighter spots on the gray, and that is a previous primer shining through, because I kind of sanded through the top layer of high build primer. Also, there was some small spots where I actually sanded right through to the metal, so I had to use a spray can with some zinc primer in it and just touch up those little places. So once I got my levels all leveled off, again I just degrease the whole surface, make sure it's all clean of dust and everything, and basically I start spraying second layer of high build primer, probably purely just to cover up any sort of areas that I could have missed, to make sure that everything's sealed up, and also to give nice and solid color without any spots or anything. So when I'm going to be painting, that's going to be the final layer in my priming. So when I'm going to be painting the color, I won't get different colors shining through the paint.